Welcome back. We're in Plymouth, Michigan today at Vanguard Motor Sales. Vanguard Motor Sales is a very unique automotive business. They're number one in what they do. If you don't know what Vanguard Motor Sales are, you really need to watch this episode. Welcome back to Refinish Media. We're in Plymouth, Michigan today at VMS, Vanguard Motor Sales. Today we have two special guests with us. We're going to go over their business, their background, and everything you do. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yep, thanks for having us.
So we have Greg and Dimo today. Is that correct?
Yep, you got it.
And Vanguard, how long has Vanguard been in business?
Well, we started in 2004, and back then we were just buying minivans and Suburbans and flipping cars, basically, until we sold our first muscle car. It's like, man, that's a lot more fun than minivans and...
What was the first car you guys bought and sold? Do you remember?
I think it
Mustang.
was Jimmy's 66 Mustang convertible.
66 black Mustang convertible, black interior, red line tires.
Okay. So 20 years in the business. That's a long time.
Yesterday was our 20-year anniversary.
Yesterday was your 20-year anniversary? Well,
yes.
Congratulations. So you guys are not just a used car dealership. You're not selling minivans and old Dodge pickup trucks and stuff. What do you guys specialize in here?
Muscle cars.
Muscle cars?
Muscle cars, street rods, collector cars, pretty much anything that's high quality and cool.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say this, but if people don't know who Vanguard Motor Sales are, they've probably been living under a rock. I mean, you guys
if you've ever looked for a car for sale, I guarantee you know who we are.
I think I've seen you guys on Joe Rogan even.
Joe Rogan picked us up. He actually brought our website up on his show and went through our inventory.
I was going through our Instagram account today and looking at our numbers, and then I looked at your numbers, and you guys are over 4 million on Instagram.
Yep, 4 million, and I think it's 1.6 on YouTube.
Yeah, just hit 1.6 on YouTube.
And we got about 5,000 videos on YouTube. All our videos of all the cars we've ever sold stay on YouTube. And you can also go to our sold inventory at VanguardMotorSales.com, and you can check out every car we've ever sold.
Okay, take us back 20 years ago. Like, how did it start? Who were the players? Why did they get into buying and selling cars?
Well, Jim and Tom started doing it out of their driveway, basically.
Okay.
And they just, guys, ADD, they got to have something else to do. They both had full-time jobs. They both actually had owned their own businesses.
Okay.
So they needed something else to do to occupy that extra hour they had every day.
Yeah.
So they started flipping cars out of the driveway until Tom started doing enough cars. He didn't really like his business, so he sold his business and started doing it full-time, in like 2006?
Yeah, around there.
Wow. I mean, it's amazing that, two guys that weren't necessarily in the automotive industry in 20 years built, it's an empire. I mean, this is no small operation. I mean, how many employees do you guys have right now?
We got 50 people that work with us.
50 people.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we've got, probably 6-8 detailers. We got 12-14 mechanics, inspectors. We've got 10 buyers. We've got all the media team. We've got all the office staff. It takes a lot. It takes a village.
Yeah. Well, just besides buying and selling the cars and fixing them up, like just the media thing that you guys do, that you got to have multiple people full time. You guys are everywhere. I seen that Ed Bassmaster guy on one of your films.
Yeah, I'm sorry you saw that.
No, that was awesome.
That was funny.
I'm not a big social media guy. I don't like social media. And I don't really follow anybody, but that Ed Bassmaster guy, he makes some funny stuff.
Yeah, he's funny. We pulled a trick on Chuck, which was a little,
I see that. No, that was
Chuck
awesome.
was not real happy about it at all. I don't think he's still happy.
He was pretty
about
pissed
it,
off
is he?
about it.
He did some restraint. If you haven't seen that video, you got to go to Vanguard on their Instagram and look through it. He was like kicking a car and dropping pistachio shells and stuff on the floor.
I thought Chuck was going to choke him out.
Well, he didn't swear at him. He didn't punch him. He didn't.
He did when he went behind the back when he went to get Tom. He's like, I'm going to kill this guy.
Yeah, well, I could tell he was mad. At least he gave him some good restraint.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, on your social media, the thing that I like about it is that, you guys come in and show them, like, locking and unlocking the doors and, like, the gas caps. And, it seems really like a small detail. But, dude, it's like, for my ADD, and obviously you got 4 million subscribers, it's fun to watch not just the cars, but all the different features and knobs and gauges and stuff like that.
Yeah, the ASMR videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the hounds to the hunters. You know, that wets your whistle.
Yeah.
And then you go to the website, then you see the full-length video where we actually drive the car. We get underneath the car. I talk about all the specifics of, you know, I look here on this car, I look here on this car. These are the things you need to look at when you're buying a muscle car.
Yeah.
And we get the cars all up in the air. As far as I know, we're the only dealership that puts every one of our cars in the air. How many pictures we take the bottom of a car?
At least 10 of every car,
12.
10 to 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons
And
of
then we
photos.
do about a third of our video is the bottom side of the car too. And it's just like your house. It's the foundation of the car.
Yeah.
If you got a crappy bottom of the car, that's where the springs hook up. That's where the suspension hooks up. That's where the motor sits. I mean, that's holding up your car, you know. Just because the paint's pretty doesn't make it a good car.
And just because it looks good in 1 or 2 pictures doesn't mean it's a good car. Now, you guys do a good job showing the car and going through everything. How many cars a month on average do you guys sell?
Somewhere between 25 and 40.
Wow.
And in the old days, it used to be if we bought 30 cars, we sold 30 cars. Even when we had 200 for sale,
Yeah.
it was almost a direct relationship. Today, we're more, you know, up and down, you know. So, like what Tommy sold 7 cars on Saturday last weekend.
Yeah.
Just like boom, 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 boom. You know, it's
He
like
personally sold
oh
7
yeah,
cars? Wow.
yeah. It's well, Tommy takes what now? 85% of the phone calls.
He's a natural born salesman.
Oh,
I
I
talked
know.
to that dude a couple times on the
Yeah.
phone. He could sell an Eskimo ice, man. I mean that in a positive way.
Oh no,
He's
most
just fun to
definitely.
talk to. He's
well,
easy
and
guy.
he's on it.
Yeah.
How many people have you called? We just call on cars all the time. Where you call a guy on a Thursday and you'll get a call back a week and a half later.
Yeah.
If you
It's
even
like,
get a
I'm
call back.
returning your call. I was like, sorry, I moved on.
Yeah.
You know, where you'll get a call back from us within, you know, hours.
No, that's the great thing is like when I called him, he was like, well, I don't really handle that part of it. Demo does. And, you know, he goes, I'm going to call him and just give me a couple minutes or whatever. And then, you know, and I mean, he's busy as hell. So I'm like thinking, okay, I'll hear back tomorrow. 15 minutes later, he texted me and said, okay, you're good to go. Here's his number. And I was like, and I mean, I appreciate
And
that.
that's the way we do business.
Yeah. No, that's good. So how long have you personally worked for the company?
Well, I've been friends with Tom and Jim for 25 years. I actually used to be a carpentry contractor who had hot rods.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, when 2008 come around and then the carpentry business slowed down, I kind of fell back on my roots.
Yeah.
And a couple of years later, I think about 2010, I started working with them. That's when we bought this building. First thing we did is build out this building. So
Gorgeous.
a little bit of our carpentry work here.
Yeah.
And then it's been off to the races ever since.
It's funny. I build hot rods for a living, and a lot of people that I know who have a background in like building or mason work or whatever, they're pretty successful, like crossing over in the automotive world because a lot of it is the same but different.
Well, in the old days, believe it or not, carpenters and that were called mechanics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's basically the same thing. Things fit together. How does this mesh with that, you know? And in the old days, like this Camaro sitting behind us, it's a lot of common sense.
Yes.
You can take something apart and figure it out. Today's cars, not so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How about you? How long have you been with the company?
Well, Greg's the one that hired me. It's the best mistake he ever made. And I've been started here in 2013.
Okay.
So,
And what's your background?
so I grew up in a family of mechanics, and both sides of my family were mechanics.
They didn't try to talk you out of this?
Let's talk
Well,
about
I'm not
the
a mechanic.
Joe,
Okay.
It's kind of like Joe Pesci. You know, what is it? Joe Pesci. You know, my dad's a mechanic. My grandpa's a mechanic.
Yeah.
My uncle on my uncle's side's a mechanic. So he played that card on me. So
Yeah,
we hired him.
When I started here, I didn't know much about classic cars because I never grew up with them. So
Yeah.
Greg taught me a lot of what I know
Okay.
as far as the classic stuff. And, you know, it came easy to me because I like cars. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, been here over 10 years now.
It might be a good move never being a mechanic. That's like hard ass.
Yeah,
work
my
to
dad
do all
would
day.
cuss the car out every day. I, listen to enough of that. I
Yeah,
think
my father does a lot of mechanical work, and ever since I was a kid, this is all I ever wanted to do. And he would say, "Don't get into this
Oh, yeah.
business. Don't get into this
Well,
business."
his
heard that
dad said the
1,000
same
times.
thing.
Yeah.
One of the reasons my dad run a great big semi truck garage, and we had hot rods and everything, and I worked with him all through when I was in high school and everything. And I got tired of being greasy all the time, especially with semi trucks. Just grease up to your elbows, and you could never wash it out of your hands and that. And that's basically the reason I went. I got tired of being dirty all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is a normal day for you like? Like, what does it look like? What do you do
There's
here?
nothing normal about what we do. I mean, you know, if a customer comes in, that's top priority. If a cool car comes in, you know, somebody calls and's like, hey, I got a blue 67 whatever, and, you know, I'm right down the street and we love it, you know, we go see it, you know, because again, you might come by and buy the darn thing, you know, while we're on the way. So it's all about timing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that requires us to hop on an airplane. You know, like I'm hopping on an airplane tomorrow, heading down to Tulsa to look at some cars.
So basically, you're putting out fires, dealing with customers, and mainly handling buying and selling of cars and stuff like that. Is a pretty...
And dealing with, you know, the mechanics out back. What's going on with this car? Oh my gosh, what do we find with this one?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we do here. Nobody else goes to the lengths that we go to. Nobody has anywhere close the amount of mechanics we do. Every car gets inspected when it comes in here, and then it gets inspected right before it leaves.
Yeah.
Because I tell a story, and I told you earlier, and I'll tell it again so these guys can hear. When I was a kid, I used to walk to the parking lot with my keys in my hand, and I would be thinking to myself, I hope my car starts. I hope my car starts. And that's kind of the way it was back in the 70s and 80s. You know, cars weren't as reliable as they are today. And then once I put the key in the slot and it fired up, I started thinking, I hope it gets me where I'm going. I hope it gets me where I'm going. So that's one of the reasons that we check the cars when they come in and when they leave. Because we can't control when one breaks.
We driving a lot of foreign cars back in the 70s. Is that
What's a foreign
What's your famous line, Greg? This car is not going to give you any problems.
Yeah. Problem. Okay. Yeah.
This 1969 Camaro.
This 69 Camaro will not give you any problems today that it wouldn't have given you in 1970.
Yeah. So what's your day-to-day like?
It's, you know, periodic, a little like Greg's. I think you forgot to mention too, you do all the videos.
Well,
really?
I
Okay.
figured everybody knew
that's
that.
a big part of his time too. Is
we
doing
do
all
we do all the
driving
videos. My oldest son actually shoots all the videos, and he's been doing it since he was in high school. We used to actually shoot the videos here. I'd take the footage home. He would edit it at night and bring it home.
Yeah.
So when he graduated, he just kind of fell into that, you know, whole role here.
I mean, it's off camera and stuff, but you guys have a huge shop, tons of lift, tons of people, cars in there.
60,000 square feet combined.
Working on cars, going through them. I mean, the average person watching this thinks like, oh, they're just a bunch of used car guys. They buy a car, they wash it, they throw a for sale sign on it.
Well,
That's probably
first of all, it
farthest
gets
from the
washed
truth.
about 14 times. Every car gets polished. Every car gets inspected, like I said, twice. We've probably got 3-4 motors out right now that for one reason
Transmissions,
or another, transmissions, rear ends,
alignments on cars.
right, we fix a
electrical
lot of oil
problems.
leaks, obviously, and a lot of times fixing an oil leak will lead you down the. You know, you pull the pan down on a car and say, "Oh my gosh!"
I've never seen a GM drip on a classic car. That's impossible. So what is the process like? Okay, you obviously you buy the car, you agree on a price. How do you get it back here? Let's say it is down south. How do you get it back to Michigan?
We hire drivers to, you know,
Okay.
truck drivers, you know, Reliable hauls a lot of our cars, and then we use, you know, a couple independent guys. So
that's a big cost.
All the shipping enclosed.
You know, we got to fly you guys to
enclosed and insured. Yeah.
Yep. You got to fly you guys to Florida. You buy a car, you ship it back.
Spend the night,
Yep.
eat, you know, whole 9 yards. It costs a lot of money to do that.
So it gets back to Michigan. What's usually the first thing you guys do to the cars?
We do a cosmetic inspection first. Like, okay, we bought this car, like behind us, this thing's got stock wheels on it, but a lot of times they'll have ugly wheels. So we switch a lot of wheels out. And then, okay, the stance isn't quite right. We got to get the stance right. And I really hate those seats they put in it. So a lot of times we'll pull the seats out, put in a stock seat or a better looking seat. We change a lot of steering wheels. We just
all the cosmetic items that you'll see in the video and photos is what we fix first.
Okay.
right.
But yeah, that and in the inspection too.
Right. Well, yeah, after we've done our cosmetic deal, normally we go through and inspect the car and make sure everything's good, working, functioning, because we don't want to change anything and then do the pictures and the videos. You know, it's like, oh, by the way, we put new exhaust on this. Well, if we're going to put new exhaust on a car, it needs to be on there before we do our pictures and videos and stuff.
You guys are test driving them, making sure they shift correctly,
Most
making sure the fluids are tough. And I mean, That's a lot of money and a lot of time and stuff like that.
And we wash the bottom. Not only do we wash the tops of every car, we wash the bottom of every car.
Yeah, I was at like a couple weeks ago. We took a tour of your storage facility, not the main place, but down the road here. And man, how many cars you guys got down there? A couple hundred?
Yep. Yeah. We probably, what do we have, 85 or 90 on the website right now?
Yep.
And when there's 85 or 90 on the website, that means we probably have somewhere between 20 and say 35 cars that we're in the process of inspecting, doing the cosmetic stuff too. And then we probably have another 25 cars or whatever that are sold that we're either doing a customer list, like customer will say, I want a different exhaust on it, or I want the exhaust to come out over here, or can you put a different air cleaner on it, or I like Edelbrock carburetors better than Holley carburetors. Can you switch that out? Stuff like that. So there's probably 20 or 30 of those cars. And then we have our cars that we have bought that are on their way in, which again is probably another 25 or 30 cars.
Okay.
So on the premises, anywhere from 200 to 250 cars at a time.
Yeah.
You guys had some cars down in that storage facility that didn't look like they were for sale too.
Oh yeah, we hold on to a few of them.
What's the story behind those? I seen a bunch on lifts with car covers.
Yeah, most of those are new muscle.
Okay.
So new muscle that we're betting on.
Okay. So you guys are buying new cars and hoping in 5 years or 10 years that the price goes up.
Right.
All right. No, that's smart. So what's the worst car, the worst deal, the worst investment you guys ever made, either early on or now?
Well, early on,
Galaxy.
early on, we used to think we could do more restoration on a car and make it better. So we were buying, say, on the scale of 1 to 10 sixes and trying to do a lot of work to them to bring them up to the 8 that we really wanted.
Yeah.
And, I coined another phrase is the only guy making money on a restoration project is the guy getting paid by the hour to do it.
Absolutely.
So it's usually about 65 cents on the dollar. If a guy spends $100,000 restoring a car, not plus the cost of the car, just on the restoration, it's probably only worth $65,000.
I'd be lucky to get 6. And it depends on how unique they make it. If you paint it some weird color and hydraulics.
And that's one of the things. We have a lot of people bringing us cars, and we just tell them, it's a little too personalized.
Yeah.
They, like you said, we had, I know everybody knows Count's Customs.
Danny.
We bought one of his cars, and it was a Lincoln Mark IV, and he built it for himself, and he put fur on the dash and then the floorboard. Well, the person that bought it loved it, yeah. But it really cut down on our audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I run into Danny every now and then, and he loved what we did with the car, so got a lot of praise from him.
Yeah, it seems like a nice guy.
You know what? He's the exact same guy in person that he is on TV. There's no difference in him whatsoever.
Laid back, chill, just very personable.
Yeah. Very sweet guy.
So my whole life, I was always taught that, cars are not an investment. They're a depreciating asset. Don't buy a car.
That's your daily driver.
Okay.
That's your daily driver. Everybody knows if you drive it off the lot, it loses 20% as soon as you drive it off the lot. These cars are more like stocks and bonds.
Okay.
When you buy one of these, it's just like your stocks. You need to keep an eye on it because you know what? Broncos were hot as a firecracker. 3 years ago, they started out being at their peak probably, and they're sneaking down.
Yeah.
Those classic Broncos.
So I got a shot of buying an OJ Bronco. I know you're talking about the older ones, but I want that 93, 94, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right. I always compare the cars to art a little more than just cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Like if you look at
difference.
the art market, you look at car market, it's kind of
Right. And there's trends.
classic car market.
There's trends. Cool. Well, that movie that we're not allowed to talk about, the Mustang that's gray and black that has that lady's
okay
name.
now. That's okay now.
You know what?
It's
I'm
going
still
back.
not going to talk about it.
Don't say the E word. Okay. Don't say the E word. Okay.
Yeah. Eloise,
Yeah.
is that what it is? Eloise. But, as soon as that movie came out, those cars just got hotter than a firecracker.
Oh, yeah.
And, a lot of people, it's so funny. A lot of people think that car is actually a GT500. It's not even close to a GT500.
Yeah, it was Foose, and then I think Sam Shepard and Jerry Brockheimer were all in on that deal and stuff. Yeah, no, you make a good point about like building hot rods from the ground up, building custom cars from the ground up. There's an old saying is you want to know how to become a millionaire building hot rods, start off with 2. You'll be a millionaire real quick. And there's some truth to it, you know? So these cars, you know, if you were to put, let's say 50 or 100 grand into a car, and I'd love to know each one of your opinions and hopefully they're different. Where would you bet your money on the investment in the future? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you think is going to be hot right now or next year and 3 years from now?
I mean, you know, the safe money is always on 67, 68 Mustang.
The muscle cars.
Yeah, the muscle cars. 67 Chevelle, 70 Chevelle, 67 GTO.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that everybody knows are the hottest. You know, some of them have the hotter year.
Can you even buy a 70 Chevelle for 50 grand these days? I'm
one that needs some work.
I'm looking.
One that needs some work.
It's funny because the 70 Chevelle is one of my favorite cars of all time. And we actually built one for GM years back with a 572 that they put on like a big TV show. And it was a convertible, which I don't like. And it was orange, which I don't like. But I always wanted to buy one of those cars. And as I make more money, that car always chases me. You know, it's always just, it paces me.
Yeah.
What do you think the money's at? Like if you had to name a particular car.
You know, it's funny because we still sell cars from the 30s. And,
Okay.
you know, sometimes I get asked, oh, you know, are the guys getting too old that we're into the street rods and the 50s Tri-5s? But we still sell them like crazy. So
Yeah, the street rods are really hot as long as they're well done.
Yeah. Mainly Fords like the A's and the 32s.
Well, actually, starting at 32, a lot of the 30, 31, 32 they've all got a grill shell on them from a 32 anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what guys are after.
Yeah, I've always loved the Model A's and the 32s and 33s. But the thing is, I'm a little bit bigger, dude. You put 2 guys in that, especially like a T-bucket or stuff, you're almost sitting on each other's laps.
Yeah, when you hop on our website, go to our sold inventory, you can see a bunch of videos. My son and I are not exactly little guys, and we fit in, you know. I mean, it's comfortable. I always say you got to have a little discomfort to be cool.
Yeah.
and some of these new
crouched down.
some of the new fiberglass bodies are bigger too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So like you get a
And
steel
they've
body
changed
car.
the seats. I mean, a lot of guys are building some thin back seats, real low to the ground.
There's a company called Shadow Rods, and I believe they're in Saginaw, Michigan, and they make something called an XL27. And it's basically a 27 Model A that's been cut down the middle and widened and longer, but it will sit on a stock 32 chassis. And for kit cars, and they're steel, they're really nice and they're affordable if there's such a thing.
Well, you'd be surprised how much just a couple inches get you.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, even like we'll have some tall guys come in here, say in a Mustang or a Chevelle, and we move the seat back 2 inches, and that's all they needed. 2 inches.
Yeah.
We used to build a lot of like cars for like, you know, Detroit Tigers and celebrities and stuff like that. And dude, I don't think any of them were under 6 foot. And some of them were like 6'3", 6'4", 250 pounds. And we would always match that guy up with somebody at our shop. And then we'd get him and then we'd be cutting seat brackets, like you said, buying an inch here, buying. And everyone's like, you're going to go through all that work over an inch? I'm like, the dude's 6'4", 270.
We sold an Eleanor
We sold an Eleanor.
Yeah.
to a center for a basketball team, and he was 7 feet tall.
He fit in it?
Well, we put an automatic transmission in it. He could have never worked the clutch.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it's one of those, it's
7
kind of
foot.
like us in a street rod.
Yeah.
You know, he's like this in there.
He's probably
And we
he's
made the
cool.
front seat touch the back seat. Like it went all the way back.
How's the Pontiac TA, like the second generation market, doing right now?
You know, those cars are super cool, but those cars were cool all through when, well, actually, you're a little younger than me, but
Not much.
we drove the crap out of those cars. So it's really hard to find a really good one because those were so popular back in the day. So a lot of them were driven into the ground.
Yeah.
But they're still nice ones. Are
Yeah.
really hot.
They made over
they're good.
100 grand of them for a year, and from like 70 to 81. And I mean, the reason why I bring it up is, you know, I grew up in the Smokey and the Bandit era, the General Lee era. Those are my two like first loves. And I bought a 79. I don't like the 77, 78. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate. The original Smokey and the Bandit. I don't like the car.
Yeah.
I like the 79, but it has to be black on black. It has to be a T-top, and it has to be a manual. I will not own or drive an automatic.
Yeah.
And like 90+% of those cars are automatics.
Well, one of the reasons that so many of those are automatics is, they had to pay like a guzzler tax or something back then because they couldn't get the emissions right on a 4-speed car.
Really?
Because when you let off the accelerator, you're dumping out a bunch of raw gas out the back. So they actually had an extra tax on the manual cars.
Are you telling me that the federal government screwed that up for us forever now? That we got to deal with that?
No, that one guy, I mean, he was probably in the government back then, right?
Yeah, but going back to the Trans Ams, the Smokey and the Bandit cars would definitely, I'd take as many as we can get.
Oh,
But
yeah.
We can't find them nice enough.
But you
that's the
can't find them nice because that's why I said there's just so many people. Those cars were so cool back in the day. We all drove them into the ground.
Well, you got that one guy not too far from us buying them all up too. I don't know if you know him. He's buying. His first name's John. He's buying them up left and right. I've actually tried to buy a couple up there.
Yeah.
The one that I bought, I and this is going back 10 years ago, and this is going off of I feel cars can be a good investment.
If you know what you're doing, obviously.
Yeah. But
we keep 50 people employed doing it.
Absolutely. I bought a car, and again, we're going back a decade. I paid $15,000 for it, and it was a WS6 car. Had the deluxe interior, so the fake leather, nice as can be. Had 30,000 miles. It was original. I drove the dog shit out of that car. I smoked cigarettes in it. I ate McDonald's. I drove down the road. I didn't abuse it,
Right.
but I don't.
That's what we did. We drove our cars. My first car was a 67 Cougar that was my dad's that he bought in 70. So I grew up with that car. When I was 15 years old, I spent the whole summer restoring it, and that was my car.
Absolutely.
And I drove that thing till I locked up the motor, sold it to my buddy. He rebuilt the motor, and as far as I know, he's still driving it.
Yeah. I mean, I had that car for multiple years, put 60, 70,000 miles on it. I put it up, I think, on Craigslist. That was still a thing back in the day. And it sold for $25,000, and some dude bought it in the first hour.
Yeah.
Gone. And I mean, if I would have bought let's say a stock Mustang GT 5.0, I mean, even with A-Plan, they were probably 25, 30 back then. That car is worth what now? 10? Maybe.
Depends mileage.
Yeah.
And stuff, yeah.
If good ones, again, that's going back to I tried to buy a 5-liter Mustang, and I could afford the car. And when I went to see Allstate, they said, no, you can't afford this car.
How's Fox Bodies doing right now?
Good.
You guys buying and selling a lot of those?
That's another car that's hard to find a good one because they were so popular back in the day that everybody drove them until there's no driving them anymore.
Yeah. And those Ford guys, what's it, JD or JW? They drive the hell out of those things.
Yeah, they're not old enough yet to where there's a lot of restored ones.
Yeah.
So finding the nice original ones is tough. Those ones are worth good money. We've had a couple.
Yeah, we had a real
Fox
nice.
bodies
Yeah, we had a real nice
restored
one.
with a Coyote in it, and that pulled really good money. But
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen with that market is guys are going to want the resto mods.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of where all the cars are going resto mod because the cars today are at so much higher of a level of performance than they were when the 69 behind us, 69 Z28, boy, that was a big bad car. And, a Honda Accord will eat its lunch right now.
Easy. We got to edit that part out. So I got a question. If somebody was out there watching this right now and they wanted to buy a classic car, they obviously have a lot of options. Why, in your opinion, why would they buy from you guys? What do you guys offer that other people don't?
Well, if you're not a grease monkey, obviously us going through the car first, fixing everything that we can find wrong with the car is going to be, a plus for you. If you like working on cars, like I said, back in the day, you had to be a mechanic just to drive a car.
Yeah.
You had to know a little bit about mechanics. I mean, everybody had a screwdriver, a pair of pliers, a 1/2-inch wrench, 7/16 wrench. They had points, plugs, condenser, all that stuff. Ballast resistor. If you had a Chrysler, everybody knew, if Chrysler don't start, change the ballast resistor or tie the wires together and get home.
Yeah. You have to work on Mopars?
Oh yeah.
Just kidding. So why would you recommend someone buying from you guys? What separates you guys from the competition?
We sell about 98% of our cars sight unseen.
Okay.
And the way I explain that is, finding, you had a car that you want, the Trans Am you just mentioned, you want it black with T-tops, right? Explain 4-speed. You had a lot of, so the chance of finding one within a 50-mile radius of your home. That's exactly what you want, small.
Very rare.
And for these cars, finding exactly what you want, you usually have to go out of state.
And we do all that for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
the
we've
quality
got
standard.
10 people. All they do all day long is shop for a car. We buy cars basically the same way everybody else on the planet does, but we do it all day long, every day, 7 days a week.
So they got the experience behind them. And after 20 years and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of cars, the people that are buying and selling for you, they've been tricked before. They're not falling for that again.
Right. And after we go through, check out a car on the phone, get hundreds of pictures from customers, then finally decide, okay, let's go look at this car. We buy about 10% of the cars that we actually go look at.
Wow.
Even after we have a deal cracked and we've looked at pictures, after we go and inspect it with our own eyes, we only buy about 10% of the
Wow,
cars.
that's crazy.
So
you're
the
walking away
quality
from
standard
90%.
is super high.
That's good.
And, we're putting our money out to buy these cars.
Yeah.
And, buying sight unseen, that's a big, confidence builder for our clients.
Do you guys offer any financing? Let's say that, there's a car out there and it's $50,000 or $100,000 and it was my first car and I got to have it. And I just don't have the $50,000 or $100,000 cash. What are some of my options to buy one of these cars?
You can finance.
We have several finance companies that work with us.
Okay. And you guys could walk me through that process?
Yep.
So there's a chance I could take this 69 Camaro F-body home with me tomorrow?
Yeah, I can even get you.
We can take it out right now.
I got David to co-sign. His credit's great. So, we can do that, after the show.
There's a lot of good financing options for these cars, and you can even take them out 10 to 12 years if you want.
Cool. I mean, and then the cool thing is, too, is, everyone hates paying the interest and stuff like that. But if they appreciate in value, if you buy it right and you take care of it,
Right.
you're not losing as much as you think you are. And let's be honest, life's too short to drive a damn minivan.
And I was just going to say that life is short. It's funny. I was driving around some little beaters, and about 3 years ago, I needed to have heart surgery again. And he'd been after me to get a new GT 500 Mustang.
Hell yeah.
You got to get one. You got to get one. You got to get. And I kept saying, no, I don't need that. I don't need that. Well, I called him from the hospital after I had surgery. I was like, you know what?
Find me a GT 500.
Get one.
Is it the black one sitting out here?
That's his
the
third
most-
one. Third, fourth?
That's the fourth one.
That's yours, the black one out there?
Yeah.
Me and David noticed that walking in that. I said, check this thing out. He's a big Ford guy.
Right.
And I noticed that right out the bat. So this thing's bad to the bone.
They're amazing cars. Just puts a smile. I live 50 miles from here, so I put like between 20 and 25,000 miles on one. Then we sell it, and I get another one.
Hell yeah. I mean, there's an old saying, man, and I think car people could, because not everybody watches this as a car people, and they don't get the passion that we have with this industry. But if you park your car in a parking lot, and when you're walking into the store or the restaurant, if you don't look back at your vehicle, you're not driving the right car. Right.
Exactly.
And people don't get it.
Oh, I know.
And
then you sit, like me, you sit in the restaurant and make sure that guy walked out. Is he looking at my car?
No, absolutely. I think I learned that at a young age because my dad owns a towing company as well.
Uh-huh.
And, tow trucks are super expensive. He's very particular about his vehicles. Like, they have to be washed after every shift, filled with gas,
Right.
Never can be dirty. And they'd have tools laying on the back. So when we needed a restaurant, he'd make sure, because we're in Ypsilanti, and Ypsilanti's not the nicest place around, and somebody didn't want to walk by and steal a jack or a four-way off the back. And still to this day, I never, even if I'm driving a beater car, I park it in Corvette parking, and, I look back at it,
Yeah.
And sometimes beater cars are fun too.
Oh, yeah.
So if you could have, of all the cars that Vanguard has bought and sold, if you think through all of them through the last 20 years, if you could, take one car home and you had to keep it forever, what would yours be?
I bought a real Talladega that was turned into a Leroy Yarborough's exact replica of his race car.
Is that Kale's dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
69 NASCAR.
Right down to all the coolers for the rear end, the coolers for the transmission. I mean, it was all race car, and it had a Boss 9 motor in it. My personal car is a 69 Cyclone, so real close to the same car. But that car, I get goosebumps just talking about it. I loved that car. It had all the aero on it. It had all the paint work on it. It was we still see it. It pops up on Instagram.
Do you remember how much it sold for?
Not off the top of my head. I remember how much I bought it for.
Did it sell for over $100,000 or no?
I think right at somewhere
Right around there. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe low hundreds or something.
How about you? One car you're gonna have to keep forever. What
The
would you think?
Kirkham Cobras. We've had a few of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I love the Shelby Cobra replica cars.
Yep.
We sell a ton of them, and they're just so much fun to drive.
Yeah.
But the Kirkham one is it's aluminum body.
Wow.
And what I really love is they polish the body,
Yeah.
and they'll do the stripes on it brushed aluminum,
I've seen that.
and that's a really cool car.
Yeah, we've had a few of those cars. We had probably the most amazing one.
Yep. I'll never forget Concourse the Elegance was going on at St. John's here, and I pulled into the lot, and there was like the new Ford GT just came out, the second gen of the new one.
Yep.
And the
V6
there was
one?
Ferrari Enzos, yeah, the V6, and just any kind of exotic car you can imagine. And that Kirkham pulled in, and like everybody stopped what they were doing.
Yeah.
The noise of a Cobra, especially a big block Cobra. That one had like a 468 stroker or something crazy. It was a big block stroker, and that car.
Those cars, and also that's the car I jump if we're going to go to a car show.
The AC Cobra.
Yeah, I'll go jump
See,
in the Cobra. It's like driving a go-kart on the road.
I was just
really,
going to say that, and I didn't mean any disrespect. I don't look at those as cars, as I look at them as go-karts, and I mean that respectfully because I like go-karts, and they're fun as hell to drive.
Well, we just brought one in that's got the same motor in it as my GT500, the Predator motor, like 760 horse. We just brought in a Superformance. That car weighs about 2,700 pounds. That Mustang GT500 weighs 4,200 pounds. So can you do the math?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a big deal. So it's a rocket.
So when Carroll Shelby built that car, obviously it was a race car. It didn't have roll-up windows. It was a minimalist car. It was a street-legal race car. When Dodge came out with the first-generation Vipers, that was like their inspiration.
Yeah, and there was kind of the same thing. That was kind of bare bones,
I think Carroll Shelby was on the design team.
When you guys drive a Viper, does it remind you of the like the early ones? Does it remind you?
Yeah. Vipers are a blast to drive.
It's like a 90s Cobra.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
They get a lot of hate and stuff, but because they were like the lure in. Maybe supercar, maybe it wasn't supercar, depending on how you talk to.
I don't know, man.
But they were fun. A lot of horsepower.
They're fun.
I got a story about that too. When I was a carpenter, I did some commercial work. I was working at TRW, and I'm putting up crown molding in this office, and this guy comes in that's dressed like you and me, jeans and a T-shirt, and he starts running his mouth at me, and I'm like, oh, by the way, who are you? He goes, this is my office. I'm like, oh. Yeah. So he's like, and we got to talking about cars, and he's like, you want to see something? I was like, yeah. He's like, come on down to the parking lot. He had a Viper down there, before they were even out.
Yeah.
He was driving around one, and he whipped me around on the parking lot out there. We did a little power slide and all that, and I'll never forget that.
They were fun. They were wild, but they were fun.
Oh, yeah. It's a monster.
And
and even today, they're more of a monster today.
Absolutely. What I always see on the internet is like, you got a car like this and you guys want $150,000 for it. And everyone's like, oh, that car, that's a $30,000 car. I bought that thing. And I see a lot of hate from, there's trolls on the internet. What do you guys say to like these cars are overpriced? They're not worth that. I mean, obviously they're selling them, so they got to be worth that, but why are they so much money?
Well, I'll go back to what I told you earlier. We buy about 10% of the cars that we've already cracked a deal on, and we've already looked at 300 pictures of them.
Yeah.
So we knock out 90% of the cars. Now, a car can have a nice paint job for a picture for, you could paint this car for 12 grand or 13 grand, or you could make all the gaps perfect. You could fit all the chrome. You could fit all the trim. You can shave and tuck all the bumpers. Guys don't see that stuff.
Yeah.
So this paint shop bill was $100,000, but then this guy that says that he has this car for 30, 40 grand, he might have paid $10,000 for paint job. Just the paint job could be ninefold.
Yeah. People don't realize that condition and pedigree is everything in the collector market.
Right. Most definitely.
These cars have all been restored where like a used car that you daily drive, the Kelly Blue Book price is pretty accurate. You have a car that was higher mileage, been used harder, or a really nice low mileage car that's been garage kept. It's a very small range.
Yeah.
But the classic cars, because they've been restored, the range is much bigger. So when people say, oh, there's a 30, I can get one of these for 40 grand. You can.
Yeah.
It's not going to be anything like the one for 130.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a totally different car. The one for 130 is going to, all the little details will be fine-tuned. All the parts used are going to be the correct parts. I can restore a car.
It's just like a motor. You could buy a motor from one of these puppy mill kind of places that are rebuilding, you know, say Chevy 350s. It's in this. Or you could have like some professional shop build it, and it's going to cost you $20,000, and then you could have bought this other one at this puppy mill kind of place for $1,700.
Or in the case of the $30,000 car, the motor was rebuilt in 1983, and then they just painted it or resealed it. You know, so there's the quality spectrum is huge.
People are going to go crazy, and they're going to say that I'm wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I don't even know what you guys are selling this car for, but if you went out and bought some piece of junk $20,000 car that was a 69, and you built it up yourself and bought all the parts yourself and painted it yourself and built all the motor and stuff, and if you paid yourself $5 an hour to do it, you'd probably still have more money in your build than whatever you guys
And that
want.
goes back to the 65 cents on the dollar that I talked about earlier.
And that's doing it yourself. A lot of work yourself.
A couple of years of your life,
Right.
Yeah.
and that car owns you. And then, oh no, I could do it myself. The guys that are saying that on the internet, I could put them in my shop with every tool known to man in an unlimited budget, and they couldn't do the car in their lifetime.
You know, it's
and they're
funny.
the ones that are running their mouth.
We see a lot of cars, and you know, maybe the paint guy, maybe the guy that built the car was a paint guy, paint body guy, but he didn't know wiring, and he kind of did the wiring himself. Maybe he didn't, you know, he wasn't a professional at building engines and drive lines. So, you know, to do it all really good, you kind of need to get help from other people. Nobody's a professional at every part of the car restoration.
I agree with you with one exception. Besides the painter does know everything. Maybe the mechanics and body man and all that.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm retired. No, David's a painter, as am I. So I will agree with that. I will concede that the bodyman, the mechanics, and everything, they
Well,
absolutely
then you can agree with like fitting this door.
Oh, yeah.
We can either hang this door in an hour, or we can weld up all the gaps. We can make everything a perfect eighth inch all the way.
days.
Yeah, we could spend 2 weeks hanging this door, or we can do it in a couple hours.
Yeah. No, and the thing is there's a difference between Timex and Rolex. And if you want Timex, there's nothing wrong with a Timex watch.
Nope.
Go buy one.
Nope.
They're fine.
Yeah,
but
keep
there
time.
there are people who do want the Rolex, and there is a difference between McDonald's and Texas Roadhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to eat McDonald's and that's your thing, that's fine. But you don't have to hate on the guys that want something a little bit nicer.
Back to the hate, you know, what I tell a lot of people is we reach millions of people.
Yeah.
If you see the views on some of our videos.
Oh, yeah.
And anytime you reach that many people, you're going to get haters.
I love the hate,
There's
though.
not,
I read it. That's what I.
And
that's
if
what
there's
I say.
20 bad comments and the video's got 1.2 million views, okay. I mean, there's always going to be those people.
It's funny is that the haters, though, all they're doing is getting the algorithm up, and they're driving.
Oh, yeah.
They're
They help.
commenting.
They help.
They're helping you. And it's like, you know, we get haters too. We obviously don't have the following that you guys have, but it's funny. I do like it because, you know, you'll see a car like this and like, oh, that car was only $8 grand, $9 grand new. How like the damn rims and tires can cost that much now, you know, especially if it's got a set of forge lines on it or something. Like you don't know what you're talking about. This is not 1980. Nobody cares about the car that you had in the 1960s. I mean, houses cost, you know, 20 grand back then.
Oh, yeah.
So what's next for Vanguard? I mean, you guys obviously 20 years, you're knocking the cover off the ball. I mean, you guys got a lot of employees, got, you know, beautiful facility, great cars, great reputation. And what's the next step for Vanguard?
I mean, I think just keep on keeping on. You know, we're looking for a bigger facility. We'd love to condense into one facility. We'd like to do more stuff locally. So anybody listening to this here in the Detroit area, please come visit us. You know, you'd be amazed how many people that live right down the street don't even know we exist, but half the people in California know we exist.
Yeah, that is weird.
Well, you've got to shop for a muscle car,
Yeah.
you know, to know who we are. Until you start shopping, I give another example. It's like when you go to the grocery store, you didn't even know you wanted that Snickers bar until you see it sitting there in the box next to you while you're standing waiting in line.
Yeah.
Same thing with these. Like, man, I got to have one of those. And we talked about it earlier. Life's short.
Yeah.
You might as well get her done now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to die and give all that money to your kids or whatever, might as well buy a cool car or whatever.
Have some fun.
What's the best way to get a hold of you guys if I wanted to buy a car and I looked at your website and all that?
I mean, the phone number's right on the website. There's a email right on the website. And if you can't remember it, just go to the website and type in muscle car. I guarantee you'll see Vanguard Motor Sales pop up.
Yeah, it's not hard to get a hold of. And I mean, I think every time that I've ever called you is Tommy answers on the first or second ring, so. Okay, what's the one car in both of you guys' opinion that you'd stay away from, that you would never buy, it's just either a junk car or a horrible investment?
One car?
Besides Mopar. No, just kidding.
Don't say that about Mopars.
We sell a lot of cool
Mopars are badass cars.
I'm building a
Even though
69
my dad, they weren't my favorite for my dad. But, one of the cool things about Mopars is whoever was running that company back in the day was really into numbers, because they stamped numbers on everything.
Yeah.
And all those numbers really make the Mopars more collectible.
Shout out to Lehigh Coca. We're building a 69 Roadrunner right now, and I like all American cars. I'm like you guys. I don't really care, but I do rip on Mopars, especially right now, because they are more difficult to build and they are more expensive and parts are harder. They're typically more valuable, and that's a broad statement, but like I'm like just days away from going to paint on this Roadrunner, and this SOB is fighting me the whole way. So right now I'm on the I hate Mopars.
It's on your crap list.
So what would be on your crap list? What's the one car you would personally never buy, never invest in, never drive?
Oh man, I don't know.
That's
in
a
a
tough
muscle
one.
In a muscle car,
I can tell you all
classic
you
cars. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. I ran into a 1961 Dart this weekend.
Is that a Mopar?
I didn't. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't even know this car existed.
Yeah.
I mean, the coolest car, and it was probably the best restoration on the planet. And it looked a lot like a bubble top.
Yeah.
But how those old Mopars had all the, wavy trim and all, circular, and oh man, just super, super cool car. I sent it to Tommy. He couldn't even tell me what kind of car it was.
Wow.
I mean, to tell you the truth, I didn't know it was a Dart until I walked up on it and saw that it was a Dart. But I knew it was a Mopar just because back in that era, the Mopars. So, I mean, I'd have loved to have that car. I've always loved having cars that you pull into a car show and everybody want to know what it is.
Yeah, unique, different.
So we did a video the other day asking all of our employees what car brand would you never purchase.
Yeah.
And I think like Tesla was number one, most consensus voted.
Actually, I think three of us said
Yugo was number two.
Yeah, that was what I said.
Yugos are great.
I kind of panicked because it's like,
that'd be the answer.
What is your guys' thoughts on the whole electric car / Tesla craze? You
it's
for
the
or
same-
against it?
Everyone
always likes to give me the
Well,
politically correct answer. There's a place for it. There's a place for it.
It's gonna come at some point.
Yeah.
But imagine let's turn the clock back to 1910. This guy Henry Ford's building these horseless carriages. Those things are worthless. Like when you run out of that gasoline stuff, what are you gonna do? Yeah. My horse can just get a drink out of the creek. You know what I mean? So these things will never go.
Yeah.
Well, the electric cars will get there.
Yeah.
They can't do them overnight.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. It's going to take advances in battery technology.
So you guys are pro electric cars? Is that what you're saying?
No.
I'm not a hater.
No.
I just think maybe.
Well, actually, I guess I could say that we are pro electric cars because there's going to be people who are going to want gasoline cars.
Yeah.
And we got
it's going to make the gas cars that are being made right now worth more in the future. I think it's kind of like another muscle car era.
Yeah.
That's happening right now. That 65.
It's just going to make it more collectible.
Yeah.
I mean, ironically, some of the earlier Teslas are already being collected and traded, and there's that. And believe it or not, I mean, you guys, how people buy and sell Beanie Babies. There's a market for anything out there, but it's already happening.
Well, I was just down at the hospital. I don't know, a few months, I guess it was in November, and I actually had one of my other Mustangs, and it was red, so it got a lot of attention. And I pulled up next to a red Tesla Plaid. And, we parked, and there was a doctor getting out of the car. He kind of looks over at me and says, "You want to race?" I said, "Yeah, I get to pick the destination." He goes,
Yeah.
He knew exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I noticed like most of your cars are American muscle, usually big three, stuff like that. How come you guys never got into like the JDM or the European cars, or do you mess with that a little bit, or?
You know, we messed around with like VWs a little bit because we had somebody here thought they knew about them. Basically because
The Hitler
I don't
car?
know anything about them.
Yeah, the Hitler car.
Yeah, well, you know, we're here in the Motor City. What, you know, if you were to put an umbrella over what we sell, it's American collector cars.
Absolutely. And actually, I love that. I'm not.
And we do what we know.
Yeah.
You know what I
Our
mean?
mechanics are geared to work on American cars. If we started bringing in Ferraris and Porsches, we would need to get mechanics with the skill set for those cars.
Different tools.
different tools, different parts,
rules,
different part suppliers.
I'm going to go back to the not knowing them again because we've got a friend who actually does do some of those. He's like, oh, don't buy those because that convertible top goes bad. It's this cylinder and it costs $45,000. And if that thing needs a new torque converter, it's going to cost you $75,000. And if you don't know all that stuff, you're going in the toilet.
I think
in a
it's
big hurry.
I think it's pretty fair to say that Italian cars are not known for their quality or reliability. I mean, they're great
Not at
cars.
all.
They're sought after.
Right.
They're very expensive, but they're not known for their quality.
And then the maintenance on them.
Yes,
I mean, a
very
lot of these cars, somewhere between $20,000 and $100,000 a year just to keep one on the road.
So obviously you guys are in Plymouth, Michigan, not too far from Detroit, and you're selling cars and buying cars all over the United States. Do you guys ever sell cars outside of the United States? You ever sell a car to
now and
someone in Europe?
Every now and then.
How's that work? If let's say some guy in France was to buy this car, I mean, what is the process like? They wire you the money? Do you put it on a boat, an airplane? How does that work?
Actually, we have flown cars.
Yeah.
So we had some people, and I hear a lot. That happens quite a bit, I guess. But yeah, I mean, there's brokers out there that take care of everything. You basically pick up the phone, call them, and it's like, hey, this needs to go to France. And they say, all right.
Yeah,
They
it-
take care of the, write me a check for XYZ, and
It'd go on a ship. You could
goes
do
in the-
roll on,
we
roll off,
actually
or you
put
could do
one in
container.
a container one time.
Yep.
They brought the container here, and I actually, strapped it all down. And talk about terrifying. How much do you strap down a car in a
Ship.
yeah.
Going over the ocean.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
damn Mayflower.
that's the most common way of transporting overseas is on ship, and like I said, either roll on, roll off, or container.
Yeah, those one people that time they were buying it for like a birthday present or
So we sold a 58 Impala to a family in Barcelona, Spain. The kids came in here, and had their dad's birthday was like in a week, and I think it was like maybe 2 weeks. And we're like, it's never gonna get there in time unless you maybe ship it on a plane, and they did, and it got there for the birthday, and it was perfect timing.
What's it cost to ship a car by boat from here to Europe? I mean,
It's really not that bad.
$6,000 around to
Okay.
like Europe. It's just a ballpark average.
How about the
We've
fly
shipped them
it?
from Japan. Oh, like quadruples, maybe
Right.
not more. This is a few years ago, so it's probably gone up more. But we've shipped cars to Japan, Dubai,
Yeah, we shipped them to Japan.
Europe, Australia.
We shipped one to Russia one time.
yeah, anywhere you can imagine. I think the only place really we haven't is China.
Is there a big difference like in cost if I shipped one to, let's say, France versus Russia versus Australia, or is it all about the same?
Well, the shipping's not the biggest thing. It's what they charge you to bring it in.
The customs,
A lot
the
of
tariffs.
these customs are anywhere from 50 to 100% of the value of the car.
And it depends.
Australia's
too.
known for that, right?
No, we used to ship quite a few to Australia, but that has really fell off.
Exchange rate's a big deal for these
Okay.
people because compared to the U.S. dollar, they might be paying 1.5 times with their currency.
Yeah. And Canada, we used to ship a lot more to Canada when the dollar and the Canadian dollar were closer. Now we still buy quite a few from.
Don't you just drive across the bridge? Isn't that how you ship them?
No, yeah, well, you can do
Tunnel
that,
or
but
bridge.
there's these guys with guns that chase you.
Okay. So obviously you guys got 50 employees here, and most of them look like they're my age or older and stuff.
Actually, younger.
They're younger than
There's-
me.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'd say average age is what 38.
Probably, yeah, mid to high
How old do you
30s.
think I am? I'm only 38 to 40.
Yeah.
So
you already told me how old you are. You think you're old.
So Do you see people, the younger people, getting into like hot rods and wanting to be mechanics and stuff?
Most definitely.
So let's say I was a young 16-year-old kid out there watching this video, and I said, man, Vanguard's got some sweet cars. I'd like to work for those guys or do something like that in the future. What kind of basic skill sets do you need?
Well, I mean, a lot of guys are mechanical. And like I said, these cars, a lot of them, just by eyeball, you can figure out how to fix one or what's wrong with one. Dimo came in, he's mechanical, even though he grew up with his dad being a mechanic and that he wasn't really planning on being a mechanic. And we needed somebody to inspect cars.
Okay.
So we had an inspector, but he was a little on the agent side, a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And we put Dimo with him, and Dimo learned a lot from him, and just, and here we are.
Okay. Obviously, they probably need like some, attention to detail, like be on time, right? I mean,
most definitely. You gotta come to work.
Yeah.
One of the, I just tell you, the way we interview a lot of people is, I'll raise the hood on a car and just ask some silly questions, and I kind of warn people. It's like, if you actually know what you're doing, you're gonna be offended by this, but does this car have power brakes? And if their eyes get real big, I know, well, they don't know shit.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is like if you get somebody who's got the right attitude, they're of average intelligence, and they're a hard worker, and they want to try, even if they don't have a background in paint and body mechanics, they don't have any bad habits, and they can learn from somebody like you guys.
Yep. Yeah.
But, sometimes you get this guy who, and again, I'm just saying sometimes you get this guy who, he thinks he's a mechanic. He's not. He cuts corners, and then it's really hard to unlearn some of those skill sets.
Well, we've actually had, believe it or not, quite a few people come in that are mechanics. But one of the things is you have to be so well-rounded here, because we get like street rods in that'll have an old 392 Hemi in it, or I'll have a Chevy 350, or I'll have a 302 in it, or I'll have a Coyote in it, or I'll have an LSA in it, or whatever. And you've got to know a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And we've actually had guys work here for a few days and go, I can't do this.
And we've had some guys that know new cars really good. They're part replacers, but they don't know how to work on some,
and that's where a lot of times we can weed those guys out by, it's like I asked a guy one time where the water pump was, and he put his hands on his hips and started looking around. It's like, on an old car, the water pump's basically
pretty obvious.
Now, say on a 2024 Mustang GT, the water pump might be behind the left rear tire. I don't know. They might have just put it anywhere they could find a place to put it,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, great interview. Thanks for showing us, your guys' facility and your cars. I really appreciate your time. I know you guys are pretty busy. If you guys want to check out Vanguard Auto Sales, you can check them out on Facebook. You can check them out on YouTube. You can check them out on Instagram. You can go to their website. But for Gary and David at RM, we wanted to appreciate you guys, and thanks a lot.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Like that. Wow, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much. If you like what we're doing here, go ahead and click a like. You can follow us. In the future, we're going to release more videos, all on automotive content, so look for us in the future. Thanks for watching.